Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Now, this is a video that a lot of people are not going to be ready for. This is a video that's going to go very deep into the Bible, specifically the Old Testament and the whole Garden of Eden story. It's going to go deep into Satan. It's going to go deep into the existence of Satan and what was going on in the whole Garden of Eden story. There's a lot there. It's a lot that went on in there that a lot of people do not realize. But this video might go over a lot of people's head. Now, if you keep up with my videos and you understand the research and what I have been putting out, over the months, then you may understand what I'm saying. But this video is going to go over some people's head. It's going to be hard for a lot of people to understand. So I'm going to have to break it down in a way that everybody can really understand and get it, because it's going to be very deep. Seriously deep. It's probably going to be the deepest video I have done so far, especially when it comes to this subject. Now, I have talked about Satan before, and the whole thing is, when you first start out doing your research, you are going to run into Satan, because Satan can be found in many different forms, many different names, many different subjects. When you look at the music industry, you'll find Satan. When you look at sports and entertainment, you will find Satan. You will find him everywhere. But if you do not understand what Satan is and what's going on, you will fall victim to it every single time. And the first thing that happens is, when a person runs into Satan, they automatically go back to the Bible and they say, well, if Satan is real, then Jesus is real. And, this whole thing must be real. So let me continue to worship God and worship Jesus in the Bible. And that is by design. I know, because I did the same exact thing when I first started doing my research. I kept running into Satan. I left the whole music industry alone at first because I thought it was controlled by Satan. And I was like, what's going on? Everywhere I look and everywhere I turn, I see Satan. It's not until I did years and years of research that I realized what was going on, what Satan is, and I had to understand it by really studying the Bible and studying what they are putting out. Now, I put out a video before about Satan and Saturn. What you have to understand is you have to get your mind off of Satan being this one being. Just this one being out there who is responsible for all of the evil. You have to understand that Satan represents a principle. He represents a law of reality that must exist. A law that says that without darkness, there cannot be light. Without good, there cannot be evil. Darkness is light. Good is evil. If you can't wrap your head around this principle, you will never understand the nature of reality. So, when we look at it this way, we can't be good if there's no such thing as evil. If we don't have good and evil, what do we have? If we are not good or evil, what can we be? We would just be, right? Now, if you was to make some food, and then I taste your food and I say, hey, this is good, then I have just created evil. I have just created bad, because the whole purpose of there being a such thing as good means there has to be a bad. There has to be a evil. So soon as you consciously create good, you have subconsciously created evil. Now, I know it sounds crazy. It sounds confusing, but it's going to make a lot of sense. Now, when you are first born, you know nothing. You have no knowledge of good or evil. If I put you in a place that has nothing but things that are pleasing to you, then that's all you would know is pleasure. The only thing you would know is bliss. Now, if I tell you, do not touch this tree over here, you can eat from every other fruit, every other tree. Don't touch this tree. It is the knowledge of good and evil. Now, remember, you're just born. You don't have a concept of good and evil. You don't know what that is. I might as well just tell you, don't touch the tree of Gooble Gobble. You wouldn't understand what that is, because you have no concept of good and evil. All you know is pleasure. That's all you know. So now let's go to the whole Garden of Eden. Let's go to the part about the trees. It says, Genesis 2:9, And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now understand, why would he create a tree of the knowledge of good and evil? So understand the nature of reality. If you have good, you have to have evil. Now, since the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, once you eat from it, it will cause you to die, death, you also have to have a tree of life. A tree that gives life, a tree that takes life. This is duality. This is the knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life. It's all about duality. It's all about the nature of reality. You have life and death, good, bad, darkness and light. This is what this whole parable is talking about, but it gets deeper. We know God says, do not eat from the tree. So now what happens? We know Eve, she eats the fruit. She gives it to Adam. He eats the fruit. And they go from only knowing of pleasure to having the knowledge of good and evil, to knowing of shame and embarrassment. Remember, they cover themselves up. So now, as I said, if you don't know good and evil, if you're not a good person or a bad person, then what could you be? You would just be, right? Before they ate the fruit, they were just beings. They had no knowledge of good or evil, right or wrong. They were just existing. So now the whole Garden of Eden story is about duality. Everything has a dual nature there. There are good trees, bad trees. You have man, you have woman, you have good and evil, you have God and Satan. It's all about duality. It's about the nature of reality. It's a parable. So now we know it is Satan that comes and he tempts Eve. And Eve, she succumbs to Satan's temptation. She eats the fruit. She gives it to Adam. They both eat of the fruit. And in doing so, they create duality for their reality. They now understand the dual nature of existence, the dual nature of reality. Now remember, God tells them, if you eat of the fruit, you will surely die. But we see, as soon as they eat the fruit, they do not immediately die. They are still alive. So what is God saying? He is saying that once you understand duality and you understand the nature of reality, then you will understand that because there is life, there has to be death. There cannot be no death without first life. There cannot be good without evil, period. There is no time until you tell time. I'll give you an example. If you watching TV, you're watching a good movie, or you're out with your friends, and you got to be to work soon or eventually, what happens? You having a good time until you look at your watch and you see, oh crap, I got to get ready to go to work. I got to go to work. And then you realize that it was bad timing for you to chill with your friends at this particular time, to watch this movie at this particular time. Once you tell time, you become a slave to time. Now I'm going to get into time later. So now, what was the whole problem with the Garden of Eden? What was God's flaw? What did he do wrong? He did not give them understanding. He didn't tell them why they should not eat from the tree. He said, don't eat from the tree or you will surely die. But he did not explain to them what death is. He did not explain to them why they should not eat from this tree and what would happen. So they had no understanding. Instead, he did what? He gave them a law. He gave them a rule. He gave them obedience. There cannot be obedience without disobedience. It is a law. It is a principle that must exist. There cannot be obedience without disobedience. Laws and rules are made to be what? Broken. So if you don't understand why you should not break this law and why you should be obedient, then you will have broken laws and you will be disobedient. Now understand, we know Eve is the one, she eats the fruit first, the woman. But the whole thing is this, the Bible never says that God told her not to eat from the tree. We all assume that God told her or Adam told her, but it doesn't say it anywhere inside of the scriptures that God said to Eve, hey Eve, don't eat from the tree. Doesn't see it nowhere. We don't see it nowhere. So now we know that, the serpent, Satan comes into Eve. He goes to her and says, hey, if you eat from this tree, you will not die. She has no understanding of death. Yet she tells the serpent that, God told us if we eat from this tree, we would surely die. But she obviously does not understand what death is. I know if I eat a handful of rat poison, I'm going to die. She didn't know what death was, so she ate. She fell for it. She ate the fruit because she didn't have understanding. So now think about it. Why didn't Job just give in to Satan? When Satan had all of the boils all on him and he was filled with leprosy and he was sick, why didn't he just give in to Satan? Why did he not just curse God's name? Because he understood good and evil. Why didn't Jesus just give in to Satan's temptations? Because he understood good and evil. Now, you have to understand, Satan is not just some being out there who is responsible for all the evil. He is not some being who was creating, all the bad things in the world. Satan is a principle. He is a energy. He is a law of the nature of reality and duality, period. We are all Satan. We are all God. We are all capable of good and evil. God is just the good. Satan is just the evil or the devil. Plain and simple. The only reason why God doesn't just go and kill Satan is because he is Satan. There cannot be any good without evil. There cannot be any light without darkness. You have to understand this. So now understand, this is all going somewhere major. This is all going to be really important later on. So understand. Do not skip a second. You have to get this in. You have to understand it. Now, I'm going to go back to the Garden of Eden story in a second because it's a whole lot there that everybody has missed. So we're going to go back to that. But I want people to understand that God is capable of evil. God is good and evil, just like Satan is good and evil, and it's so evident. So let's look to the Bible. We can see here, 1 Chronicles 21:15, it says, and God sent an angel unto Jerusalem to destroy it. And as he was destroying, the Lord beheld, and he repented him of the evil, and said to the angel that destroyed, it is enough. Stay now thy hand. I'm going to stop right there. So now understand, you have God who just sent an angel to destroy Jerusalem, and he stopped himself and said, whoa, this is evil. He told the angel to stop. Now, the thing is, we look in the Bible a lot and we see so many things that any sane, normal person would classify as evil. We see God, he tells the Israelites to go basically utterly destroy whole cities and towns, kill everybody, leave nobody alive, men, women, and children, wipe them all out. You explain to me how killing an innocent child is not evil, a child who does not understand good or evil. Why would that be a good thing? But everybody want to just say, okay, well, it's cool because God said so, not thinking that this is evil. Now let's go to Numbers 31:17-18. This is Moses. He's saying, now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that have known man by laying with him. But all the women children that have not known a man by laying with him, keep alive for yourselves. How can any person read that and look at that and say, that's not evil, that is okay, that is good? Nobody can read these things. There's a lot more things we can look to in the Bible. We can see that this is clearly evil, and we read it and we just let it slide because it's God. God is always good. No, you have to understand. In order for you to get this, you have to realize God is good and evil. So now think about it. God comes, he gives Moses the law. He gives him the 10 commandments. Now, he gives them the commandments, and then he orders them to break 2 of them immediately. 2 laws that say, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and then God goes and orders them to do exactly that. What is going on here? Laws are meant to be broken. Rules are meant to be broken. What does Moses do? He breaks the law when he comes down from Mount Sinai. He breaks the tablets on the ground. It's trying to tell you something. God is evil. Satan is good. They are both capable of good and evil. So now think about it. The whole story with Job. what's going on there. Satan kills 10 people in that story, the 7 sons of Job and the 3 daughters. Now, God kills millions of people in the Bible. He kills millions of people. But we are told that Satan is the evil one. No, Satan is a principle. He must exist. Yes, he is evil, but he's capable of good. God is good, but is he capable of evil? Yes, we can see that they are both capable of good and evil. So now we have to remember that at one point, Satan was an angel. He was an angel. So he had to be capable of good at some point. Now what happened? Did he just become completely bad? No. Good and evil has always existed. It has always existed. Now, what about the other angels who rebelled with him? They had to be capable of good and evil as well. So you got to remember this. We're going to come back to this. But we got to go back to the Garden of Eden. And we have to look at what is the key to the Garden of Eden. What is the key to that story? You have to realize, what did Adam and Eve have that they didn't realize they had before Satan came? Before the serpent came and talked to Eve, what did they have that they did not know of? They had choice. They had a choice. They could choose whether to obey God or disobey God, but they had no knowledge of obedience and disobedience. They could choose to eat from the good tree or from the bad tree, but they had no knowledge of disobedience and obedience. What happened? When the serpent spoke to Eve and he told her, he gave her a choice. He said, hey, if you eat from this tree, you will not surely die. He know that if you eat from this tree, you will become like him, having the knowledge of good and evil. He gave them a choice. So now this is where it's going to start to get kind of crazy, so pay attention. Now, think about what Adam and Eve was before they ate the fruit. They were just beings. They were just regular, normal beings. They had no knowledge. They didn't know about good and evil. Now, what was God? God was God. And God already knew about good and evil. He already knew that good and evil existed. And he was God because he had this knowledge. So Adam and Eve had a choice. They could either choose to blindly obey God or to what? Become God. Remember, Satan says, if you eat the fruit, he knows your eyes will be open and you will become as God, knowing good and evil. But there's a twist to this. So now, they eat the fruit. And God is like, what? He's like, damn, they are like us now. Now, let's go to Genesis 3:22. It says, and the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. First of all, who is he talking to? He said, the man has become as one of us, to know good and evil. Who is he talking to? Could he be talking to Satan? Could he be saying, damn, Satan, they like us now. We both knew about good and evil, to know good and evil. Now, it says, and now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. So now, pay attention. God basically is saying they are just like us because they know good and evil. He never says they have become gods. He says they are just like us to have the knowledge of good and evil. Now, unless they eat this fruit from the tree of life and live forever, they basically will not be gods. Now, understand, Satan comes and he tells them, hey, if you eat off this fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, you will become gods. But he fails to mention that they also have to eat from the tree of life. That tree that everybody seems to have forgotten about. I'll say that again. Everybody seems to have forgotten about the tree of life. He doesn't tell them that you got to eat from both trees. Now, what does God do? Let's go to Genesis 3:23-24. It says, therefore, the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, we know they are angels, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So basically God said, hey, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. I'm going to guard the tree of life Because what was God's purpose from the start? What was his agenda? To keep us from becoming gods, to keep man from becoming gods. So now that Satan came and, threw a wrench into his whole plan and said, hey, eat from this tree, you'll be gods. God like, oh snap. In order for me to stop this process from being completed, I have to guard this tree of life now. I have to guard it. So he casts them away, kicks them out, say, get out of here. He puts guards in front of the tree of life with flaming swords to guard the tree. Think about what I'm saying here. Now, everybody, we just go and we read the rest of the Bible, forgetting all about that. Wait a minute. It's irrelevant. We want the tree of life. I'm going to give you Exodus and Leviticus and Deuteronomy, and I'm going to give you Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I'm going to give you all these other books of the Bible to basically keep you from what? Genesis. To keep you from what? The tree of life. The whole purpose is that tree. You get that tree, we gods. Plain and simple. But nobody goes back and mentions this. Nobody mentions that. Wait a minute. The whole purpose is for us to get that tree. God is guarding that tree. But we're going to go along. We're just going to follow the Bible and follow everything else and all the other rules that's in the Bible and forget about the tree of life. So now God is guarding this tree. He's guarding the tree of life. So what is the tree of life? Here we go. We all know about this tree. We all know what it stands for. Now understand, we have the tree of life. We also have the 7 chakras. We went into this whole thing. It's 7 chakras. So now, when I was speaking about, you have your subconscious and you have your consciousness. You have your conscious self, which you are aware of, and you have your subconscious, the one that takes over in the dream state, the one that's basically controlling the dream world. It's controlling that reality. So what is the purpose of this? You must unite the conscious and the subconscious and bring them together. So what is the purpose of duality? To become one. Plain and simple. This is what the Bible was telling you. The whole book is about duality, whether you realize it or not. The whole book. Now, we have Genesis that really gets into the heart of everything. Now, it's telling you, it gives you the key in Genesis. You have the knowledge of good and evil, then you have the tree of life. The rest of the Bible is trying to tell you how to get the tree of life. Remember, God is guarding it. He's guarding it with angels with flaming swords. The rest of the book is trying to tell you how to get past those angels and get to that tree of life. So now understand, what was God doing in the garden? What was he doing there? He was being controlling. He was controlling man. He gave them rules. He basically said, hey, don't eat from this tree. I'll give you everything else that you need, but don't eat from this tree. Why? Because he didn't want us to become gods. He didn't want us to become like him. So he was trying to deceive Adam and Eve to staying obedient, to being under him. This is what was going on in the garden. Realize this. So now we understand that Adam and Eve, they do not become gods. We know they eventually die. And we know that God, he floods the whole earth. He kills everybody off except for Noah and his family. And he basically starts the whole thing over again. So what eventually happens? Moses comes along and God does what? He gives them laws, just like he gave Adam a law. He said, don't eat from this tree. He gives Moses the law, the 10 commandments, and says, hey, everybody is to follow this. I want obedience. You can't do that. I'll be jealous. I'll kill you. I'll kill them. I want obedience. The same thing as he was doing in the garden. He wants obedience. He doesn't want you to become God. Plain and simple. What comes up later on, Jesus comes. Jesus comes later and says, hey, just follow me. Believe in me. I'm the way. I'm the truth. I'm the life. Believe in me and you will go to heaven. What is heaven? Believe in me and you will go to heaven. Doesn't say nothing about the tree of life. Remember, the tree of life. Doesn't say nothing about the tree of life. He says, believe in me. Follow my words. Follow me. And you will go to heaven. So now, if God wanted us to go to heaven, why didn't he just put Adam and Eve in heaven from the start? Why did he put them in the garden? So why should we follow Jesus to get to heaven. So now, understand this first. Let me say this because I know how it sounded. I know there's a lot of spooky people out there. I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, he's trying to get us to follow Satan. No. Understand this is a parable. It's going to make a lot more sense if it doesn't make sense now. It's a parable. It's not a real story. I mean, come on. Can you imagine? Do you honestly think this is how life began? It began in some garden with a bunch of fruit trees? And some dude ate a fruit and some girl ate a fruit and now everything messed up? Do you honestly believe that this is how existence began? This is how human creation started in some damn garden? If you can't look and see that this is a parable and this is a story, something is wrong with you. It's a parable. Understand, I'm not saying that God is evil. Your Bible is telling you that God is evil. Your Bible is telling you that God is good. Your Bible is telling you dual things because it's about duality. People got to stop being spooky. They have made you so frightened and scared of nothing. People are so scared of nothing. It's nothing. You have to realize what's going on and understand that, yes, you are Satan. You are God. You are both capable of evil. As I have shown you, what is the number? 666. It tells you 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, gives you carbon, makes man. It's telling you we are evil. We are Satan. Man is Satan. Man is God. As I have shown you that Jesus is us. I've given you all of these parables. So anybody who hasn't seen my videos, who just watching this one video, who hasn't figured this out, you need to go back and look at some of the old videos so you can understand where this makes sense. Because I don't want people in the comment section saying that, hey, this dude is trying to promote Satan. This dude is trying to get us to do what Satan did. This dude is this. This dude is evil. Pay attention and snap out of it. Wake up. So now we have to bring this whole parable, this whole story of the Garden of Eden. We have to bring it into reality. We have to bring it into our lives, our everyday lives. So now remember, God, his whole purpose, he was controlling Adam and Eve in the garden, trying to keep them away from the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life so that they would not become gods. Now, they got the tree of knowledge. He cast them out of the garden. They went on, they later died. God destroys the world. Then he saves Noah and his family. They replenish the world. He gives us more laws. He becomes more controlling. Don't do this. Thou shalt not that. I will kill this. I will be jealous. Then Jesus comes along and says, hey, follow me. Obey God's rules. Obey God's laws. Follow me and you will get into heaven. He gives you laws. He gives you rules. He gives you things to follow. Remember, we get our law from Ezra, the book of Ezra. We get it from Moses. We have laws, we have rules, we have things to follow for what? To keep us away from the tree of life. So now, let's bring this into reality. What can we find to fit the description of God in the Bible? Our government system. What does our government system gives us? It gives us laws. It gives us rules. It gives us entertainment. It gives us sports. It gives us everything to distract us and keep us away from what? The tree of life. Damn, I'm good. I'm good. But let me get a high five. I swear to goodness, I'm good. I ain't even getting into Saturn yet. I ain't even getting to the Saturn part yet. You have to understand what this whole thing is. The government is God. Plain and simple. What did they give you? They gave you your money. It says, in God we trust. They are taking the role of the God in the Bible. The Bible is the parable. It's trying to tell you what's going on. So think about it. Look at the government. Look at the system that we live in. Look at hip hop. Look at the sports entertainment industry. Look at the whole music industry. Just look at movies. Look at Hollywood. As I said before, when you go and you look into these things, what do you find? You always find Satan. What do we think about the government? Is our government supposed to be good? Yes. Do they do good things sometimes? Yes, they do. The government is supposed to be good, but the government is fulfilling the role of God. Think about it. What did God tell Moses and them to do? What did he tell the Israelites to go do? Go out and utterly destroy things. What is our military doing right now? Our military goes out and destroys civilizations, wipes people out. Look at the people in Syria that have been killed. Think about Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Think about all the people that have been wiped out. Think about all of the government bases all over the world, everywhere. What is it doing? It is God. It is taking the role of God in the book. It is God. That's what the book is trying to tell you, who your God is. Plain and simple. If you can't look at these things and see it and put it together, you don't want to. You have to realize the parable and what's going on here. And it gets so much deeper, so much deeper. So now, just like we do with the Bible, when we read the Bible and we sit there and we see that God is saying, go kill men, women, and children. Go wipe out little kids. Go take girls who have not yet lain with a woman and keep them for yourselves. We read these things and we say, well, it's God. We do the same thing with our government. We watch our government go and bomb the hell out of places and kill people. We see on the news the innocent bodies of the Iraqis and innocent bodies of the people in Syria just laying all over the place, dead people everywhere. And we say, oh, well, it's our country. It's America. And we all let it slide. We let it go. Because what? It's the same thing. You got God and country. God and country. You try to separate the two. Remember that? It's the same thing. Can't get around it. So when we look at this whole entertainment industry, we got movies. We got movies that talk about angels and good things. Movies about, the good guy winning. Good guy versus the bad guy always. It's always a protagonist and an antagonist. Good and evil. But we also have movies about Satan. We have movies where the bad guy wins. It's always about bad guy versus good guy. Why? It's duality. Plain and simple. There's always going to be opposition. It's an opposing team. Sports, it's about that same thing. You can look at the sports industry. We can find Satan there as well. Look at some of its players. If you look at in almost every single team's logo, it has something to do with Satan. It's inescapable. Baseball, we're talking about the whole Masonic logo. It's right there on a diamond, on a baseball diamond. A lot of people miss that. It's everywhere. It is duality. It is the nature of reality. It is inescapable. And unless and until you realize that, you're never going to figure this thing out. You're never going to get there. You're not going to get there. You're not going to, if you're not meditating, if you ain't eating right, if you ain't doing what you're supposed to do, you will be back here, plain and simple. You're coming back here. That's the purpose is for you to escape here. Oh, it's going to get so deep when we get into this later. But man, they holding all the keys. They guarding all the gates. It's the truth. Now, I have shown you in previous videos why the Bible is important. You cannot just ignore it. Yes, when you start doing your research, a lot of people, when they figure out that the Bible is not true, we find all the flaws with it, a lot of people just leave the Bible alone and go about their life. As I said in previous videos, that the people who do that, they're still screwed because you need the Bible. You need to know it. You need to learn it. Remember, the key is in there. The secret is in there. Believe it or not. It's duality. Of course, they're going to give you bull and they're going to give you good. It's duality. Everything is. They're going to give you the key, but they're going to also give you stuff to make you think the key is somewhere else. And this is where Jesus comes into play, where Jesus says, hey, just believe in me. Everything's going to be fine. Just believe in me. But remember, I showed you in previous videos. I showed you in That's Game, the Bible and Christianity Finally Explained. I showed you that Jesus is the key. He is the way, he is the truth, and the life. He is the key. And I showed you how, because you are Jesus. He is you. Plain and simple. Just like you are Satan. But if you don't understand the principles that go along with all of these things and how to become one, you're never going to escape it. You're never going to, figure this whole thing out. You have to understand. You have to read the Bible. You have to, most of all, and I can't stress this enough, pay attention to two people. I always say pay attention to two people in the Bible. That's Paul and it's Jesus. Everything that they say. You need to really take notes of it. You need to pay attention and put it into your head. Paul is giving you so many clues. He's kind of sort of backing up what Jesus is saying. But you have to really pay attention to them too, because they are the only two who really reveals what's going on in the book. Now, like I said, when you read the rest of the Bible after Genesis, When you start reading the rest of it and you start putting it all together, you will see how to get the tree of life. We know that Jesus basically is the key to getting the tree of life and getting past those guards. So we can't still just sit back and we can't read Genesis 3:22 through 24, where it's saying God is trying to keep this tree from us. We can't read that and then just go along with the rest of the Bible and never go back and revisit this tree. And that's what has happened. A lot of people you go to church and they listen to the pastor and they don't never ask that question. Well, what about the tree of life? What about that tree? That tree is what we need to get. Now, a lot of people just look at it as, well, that tree is disobedience. That tree is Satan. Satan wanted us to get that tree. So in trying to get that tree, we are basically trying to be like Satan and follow Satan. No, that is not what's going on. You need to realize the parable and understand what's being said here. No matter what, people just sit around and they act like everybody's just all goody two shoes and everything is all good and nobody is capable of evil. The things that Satan do in the Bible, which is basically kill people, you do in real life. People do far worse. You got people setting people alive, on fire alive, burning people alive in this world, killing babies. It don't get no much more evil than killing a baby. I mean, you got to be a sick, evil mother to kill a baby, to kill an innocent child. You got to be a sick person to set somebody on fire. It don't get no more sicker than that. Plain and simple. You have to be a sick person to watch millions of people starve to death when you got infinite money to feed them all, to make everything better. But it's duality. You got the rich, you got the poor, you got the good, you got the evil, you got left, right, up, down. It's inescapable. It's all throughout reality. It is a universal law that we can't escape in this reality. Plain and simple. So now, that whole part was about God, about the Garden of Eden. I wanted to get into that part so you can see the duality of God in the Bible. That's why a lot of people say, the God of the Old Testament is Satan. A lot of people look at it, and as I was showing you in a previous video, that's how a lot of people like the Gnostics and a lot of other people looked at the Old Testament, saying that, wait a minute, this God is not, a loving, good God. This God is evil. It has to be Satan. So that part was about God. Let's get into Satan. You have to understand that Satan is Saturn. Long before modern day religion, long before the religions we know today, you have to understand there was the worship of Kronos. You will find the worship of Kronos all throughout the ancient world. We're talking about the golden age of man. Now, when you look at Greek mythology is basically, disguising the worship of Saturn, the worship of Kronos. And as you study Greek mythology and you study Saturn, you will start to see where they look exactly alike. You'll start to find the same names, the same terminologies. They disguising it as Greek mythology, but it's really still the worship of Kronos. So now when you start looking at Golden Age, Bronze Age, and when you start looking at ancient Greek and ancient Roman mythology, you're going to start to find the Saturnians. And the Saturnians worship Kronos. Kronos, of course, is the god of Saturn. He is the god of time. All that happened was Saturn became Satan. It's just that simple. That's all they did. They just changed Saturn unto Satan when they created the Bible. That's all. No matter what name you want to put Satan in, no matter how you want to express Satan, it all goes back to Saturn. It's inescapable when you start doing the research, and you're going to see that here. Now, Kronos. Kronos is the god of time. When you start looking at all the symbolism that surrounds Saturn, we know about, Capricorn. Capricorn rules Saturn. Capricorn is the goat. It rules Saturn. That's where we get Baphomet. So now, when we look at the planet Saturn, there is a storm in the North Pole. The storm in the North Pole is shaped like a hexagram. And we know from the hexagram we get the square. From the hexagram we can get the star, the five-pointed star.
It's something big, something strange, and something never seen in the universe before. Saturn, the solar system's most bizarre yet beautiful planet, has just gotten even more mysterious. In 1979, the Voyager spacecraft showed a perfect geometric form over the North Pole. In October 2006, the Cassini craft found that it is still there.
It's just bizarre, and it sits there kind of still. It doesn't move with the planet. The pole, there's a hexagonal feature, a six-sided polygon that encircles the pole at about 78 degrees north latitude. And it's sitting there as a set feature.
The hexagon is similar to Earth's polar vortex, which has winds blowing in a circular fashion around the pole. Saturn's vortex can fit 4 Earths inside of it and extends 60 miles deep into Saturn's clouds.
And what's more bizarre, Voyager saw little tiny clouds going around at about 100 meters per second, which is about 200 miles an hour, going around this racetrack.
Now, whether you realize it or not, all of the numerology that surrounds Satan can be found in the planet Saturn. The number 9, 666, all of it can be found in the planet Saturn. So now understand, all of these symbols, every last one of the symbolisms that we find in the planet Saturn, we can equate to Satan. Satan uses the same symbolisms because they are the same exact thing. Get it out of your head that Satan is this one being. He's not just this one being. Satan stands for evil. It stands for a lot of things. And evil is represented by the planet Saturn. We'll get into why later on. So now understand, Saturn was not the only thing worshipped by the Saturnians. They also worshiped the moon. Now, the whole thing is, when the sun sets, when it goes down, way back during ancient times, before electricity, of course, the darkness. You had complete pitch black out there. You had a lot of animals coming out, hunting people, dragging people off to their doom in pitch blackness, pitch dark. It was that evil and terrifying thing if you wasn't in the right place when the sun went down. If you ever drove down, a highway at night or a certain area at night and it's just pitch black outside, without your car lights, you would be in complete darkness. I know a lot of people have, done that before. So imagine back then, or being somewhere like, Africa, or being somewhere where there are wild animals that can, hunt you and kill you at night, and, it's nothing you can do. So at night, it was a terrifying thing. Looking up at the sky, you see the moon, you see the planet Saturn, especially when you're looking at Saturn on an angle and it looks like an eye. So, they associated Saturn with death, with violence. This is why the ancient Egyptians called it the deity Set, because it corresponds with the sun setting. Now, the whole thing is this. I know a lot of people get caught up in names and terminologies. I don't want you to get caught up in this kind of stuff. Yes, sunset will not sound the same in, like Chinese. So the sun setting in Chinese wouldn't equate to the Egyptian god Set. It wouldn't equate. So a lot of people will say, well, it doesn't equate in different languages, so, it doesn't mean anything. It's not about the name and how it sounds. It's about what it represents. It's about what the name corresponds with. Now, the whole thing you have to think about is this. When they created the English language, why did they make these terminologies, equate to certain things, certain biblical things, like Jesus is the sun and our sun. So when we have a sun, it sounds the same as the sun in the sky. So you have to realize, as I said before, the English language was created to go with the Bible. It was made to go with the Bible to deceive you, plain and simple. The same thing with Arabic and Islam. The whole language was created to deceive you, created to go with the doctrine. It's the same thing with Hebrew. The whole language was created to deceive you, to go with the doctrine. Plain and simple. You don't find none of these languages in the ancient world. You don't find them. They was created specifically for these religions. So this is why the names match. So don't get caught up in names or terminologies, really. Just really think about what it represents. So now understand, Saturn used to be closer to Earth. Thousands of years ago, a lot of ancient civilizations, they drew depictions. They talked about Saturn being closer to the planet. Not only being closer to the planet, but also being a sun. A lot of researchers, a lot of scientists have written about Saturn being a sun and Saturn being closer to our planet. Let's take a look at a couple things. In 1944, C.E.R. Bruce wrote, "In fact, it may well be that both Jupiter and Saturn were at one time minor stars, and that their satellite systems were formed as the result of minor or planetary nova outbursts." William Mullen wrote, 1973, Velikovsky has suggested that as a result of disruption, Saturn went through a short nova-like phase in which its light would have obscured everything else visible from Earth. 1977, Eduardo Cardona wrote, "Diodorus Siculus was not the only writer of antiquity who stated that the Babylonians called Saturn the sun star. Hyginus also expressed his opinion that Saturn was called the star of the sun among modern Assyriologists. It seems as if Thompson was one of the first to notice that the Babylonians designated the planet Saturn as Shamash. Yet Shamash, as a cursory glance through any work on Assyrio-Babylonian mythology will show, was very much like the Egyptian Ra, the usual Babylonian name for the sun." Now, 1979, Manuel Velikovsky wrote, "My conclusion that as a result of its interplay with Jupiter, Saturn became a nova. I found confirmed in many ancient sources in which Saturn is regularly associated with brilliant light." Brilliant light, think about that. Brilliance, illumination, Illuminati. That's why they call it the Illuminati, the illuminated ones. This is where that whole name came from back then, but a lot of people will tell you they have since changed that. Now, it goes on to say, "But I was led to this idea first of all by a certain clue contained in the biblical account of the deluge." Now, yes, when you read the Bible, when you understand what's going on in that book, the Bible is talking about Saturn a lot. I'm going to show you. We're going to go through that. So now it goes on when we look at other scholars talking about this. 1979, Eduardo Cardona again, he wrote, "It is also possible that the planet Saturn was much closer to Earth than it is at present, or that the Earth itself was on an entirely different orbit and at a different distance from the sun than it is now. In fact, we have good reason to believe that during the period of Earth history with which we are concerned, our little world was actually a satellite held in the electromagnetic and or gravitational embrace of the giant planet." So he's basically saying that at some point they believe that Earth was a moon of Saturn. Think about it. Now Saturn has over 60 moons. When you look at the planet Titan, well, the moon Titan, it looks exactly like Earth. It's supposed to be exactly like Earth. Now, another thing you got to realize, Titan, that's Greek mythology. So like I said, we're going to start finding this a lot. Things that, involve Saturn, we're going to find in Greek mythology. Now, goes on to say here, Emanuel Velikovsky, 1979, "It is conceivable that the Earth was at that time a satellite of Saturn, it's a moon, afterwards possibly becoming a satellite of Jupiter." Now, 1979 again, Velikovsky has suggested that many thousands of years ago, but still within human memory, Earth might have been a satellite of Saturn. We are now supposing that the central fire was Saturn, that Earth was in orbit around Saturn and always kept the same face towards Saturn, and that Saturn with Earth revolved around the sun in 1 year. Now, here you have these people, they've been doing the research. I know a lot of people have never heard about this, but when you do the research, you'll see. It's too many people talked about it back then during ancient times about Saturn being, closer to Earth. They worshipped it. They was called the Saturnians. They had, secret societies of worship. And it's found all over the ancient world. We're gonna go and look at a lot of the symbolism. And when you start seeing a lot of the ancient symbolism, you're going to see how it corresponds with modern day religion. You have to understand the worship of Saturn is in all religion. It is everywhere. So basically back then, today we have, Christianity, we have Islam, we have our modern day religions. But back then it was about worshiping Kronos. It was about worshiping Saturn. That was the religion back then. If you go back then, everybody was talking about Saturn. They was talking about the worship of Saturn. And it was worshiping the planet because they can look up and see it. So now we have the worship of the sun, the moon, and Saturn. We can find the worship of all three of these things in modern day religion. In the Bible, we have Jesus the Son, God the Son. Now, in the Torah, we have, of course, the star. That star is talking about Saturn. As a matter of fact, when you look at the word Israel, a lot of you noticed already, it's just a breakdown of Isis, which would be the moon, Ra, which would be the sun, and El, which would be Saturn, just another name for Saturn. So Israel is just the worship of all three of these things. When we look at Islam, the crescent moon and the star, that's the moon, and that is Saturn. It's the worship of Saturn. It all goes back. So now when we look in the Bible, when it's talking about people worshiping false idols, they're basically talking about themselves, because they were the ones worshiping false idols. But these false idols, when you go through the research and look at some of them, they're talking about either the sun, the moon, or Saturn. So now Acts 7:43, it says, "Yea, ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch, and the star of your god Rumphian, figures which ye made to worship them, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon." So now first, who is Moloch? Moloch is a giant bull god. He is the god of material, the god of evil. They used to sacrifice babies, as you can see in the depiction. They used to sacrifice babies to this bull god Moloch. Now, a lot of people think that Moloch is the owl that's sitting there in Bohemian Grove, where all the presidents and rich people go and they have the cremation of care and this whole, weird ceremony that they have there. It's a big giant statue of an owl. A lot of people thought that was Moloch, but that's not Moloch. That is Minerva. That is the representation of Minerva. So now when you read the story about Minerva and this whole owl, it all goes back to Roman mythology and the worship of Jupiter. Now the whole story goes that Jupiter married the Titaness Metu, and she got pregnant. But there was a prophecy that said that Jupiter would be overthrown by his child. So what he did was he swallowed Metu whole while she was pregnant. And what happened is she started forging these weapons inside of him, and it kind of drove him crazy. Then eventually the Vulcan, God, that's another thing we got to look at, Vulcan. Just that name alone, we know it goes back to Spock, and it's a whole nother thing about the Vulcans. But this Vulcan, or this dude named Vulcan, he basically splits Jupiter's head open, and out comes the baby. Only it's not a baby, it's a full-grown woman, Minerva. Now Minerva, when she comes out, she has these weapons that her mother forged for her inside of Jupiter. So now understand, Minerva is the goddess of wisdom, which is why they use the owl. We know wise is the old owl. There's owl symbolism everywhere. When you look on the $1 bill, you can see that there's an owl over top of the one hidden there. Gotta zoom in, you can see it. But also when you look on the $100 bill of the Confederate money, old Confederacy money, you can find Minerva. She's there. If you look by her foot, you can see the owl. Also, Minerva is on the Medal of Honor, which is the highest military medal you can get. She's on that as well. Now, the patron goddess of many Greek fraternities is Minerva. We know Kappa Kappa Gamma, she's in the logo. When you look at Delta Sigma Theta, she is in the logo. Also, Manly P. Hall, he talked about the new initiates to the third degree of the Bavarian Illuminati. They were called Minerval initiates. They had to wear basically a pendant with an owl on it that symbolized Minerva and symbolized wisdom. Now, when we go back to Moloch and we look at Moloch being this bull god and they sacrifice babies to Moloch, we can also go to Greek mythology. We can look at Kronos, look at Saturn. And Kronos ate babies. We all seen those creepy looking pictures of Kronos eating babies. That story is almost the same as Jupiter. So we have Saturn, we have Jupiter. And the story is basically the same, where Kronos, he had a prophecy that basically his child will overthrow him. And we know Zeus ends up running it all. If you ever played a game, God of War 3 in particular, we talk about Kratos, who basically goes and he wipes out all the Titans and the Greek gods. He defeats Kronos, he defeats Zeus at the end. And basically, when the game is over, the world goes to, us mortals or us regular people. So when you look everywhere, we're talking about the worship of Kronos. We're talking about Greek mythology. We're talking about Saturn. We're talking about all of these things that we can put and we can trace it all back to, or the symbolism back to, Satan. So you got to understand, it's not Satan. This is all ancient mythology, ancient worship. We're talking about the Saturnians worshiping Kronos and worshiping all of these, planets and different things like Jupiter and Saturn, and none of it has to do with any real being existing that we call Satan. And this is one of the things I want people to take away from this. You got to understand, when you do the research, there is no Satan. And one of the reasons why I had to do this video and put this out so people can understand. Yes, I was there before. I know how it feels that when you're going back and you start doing the research, you keep running into Satan. Gotta keep doing research and understand that this is all mythology. None of this stuff is real, but there's a lot more to Saturn, obviously, and we're gonna get into that. So now let's go back to Acts 7:43 in the Bible when it's talking about the worship of Remphian. When you translate this word, it means Saturn. When you look at the Coptic Bible, the word still translates to Saturn. So here we have the Bible talking about the worship of Saturn, and it's disguised as a different word, Remphian. You got to do research. Now, when we go to Islam, we can see it plain as day, the worship of Saturn. Saturn is called the dark sun, or the black square, or the black sun and the dark square, any way you want to put it. But we can see here what's going on. They are basically worshiping Saturn. That's the cube. Now we know at the top of Saturn is a hexagram, and from that hexagram we can get the cube or the square. Now they are walking around the square, symbolizing the storm that is going around the hexagram or the square of Saturn. Now, do they realize what they are doing? No, because Islam tells you not to do any research and not to basically try to prove your religion true. You have to basically have faith. But truth is truth, and obviously the religion is not based on truth. So now when we start looking at Islam, when we start looking at the logo or the symbol they have there of the crescent moon and the star. Now when you start doing research on moon mythology, you find out about Al-Elah. Now Al-Elah was a moon god. All they did was basically shorten the name to Allah. Now Al-Elah had 3 daughters, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. They were moon goddesses. Now you'll also find the worship of Hubble. Hubble was always depicted with the moon, the crescent moon. You'll also find Baal or Baal, always depicted with the moon and the star. Looks exactly like the Islamic symbol or the Islamic logo. Now also we can find Baal in the Bible, and he is always associated or usually associated with Satan in some way. So now when we start looking at these symbolism, when we start seeing the crescent moon and the star, we can find it so many places, so many civilizations way back in ancient times worshipped and used this logo, the crescent moon and the star. Now, a lot of Muslims will look at this and they'll say, well, they just worship the same God or worship Allah, but by different names. But they don't realize that this was the worship of the moon. It had nothing to do with Islam and their religion. It was the worship of the moon. So now when we look at Judaism, when we go and we start researching the Old Testament, when we start looking at these characters, they all resemble Greek mythological figures. When we look at Eve, we have Pandora. When we look at the whole Noah's Ark story, we have Deucalion and Pharaoh. When we look at Samson, we have Hercules. When we look at God or Jesus, we have Zeus. It's the same. It's all Greek mythology, and we know 1000 BCE, we're talking about Homer wrote about these things 1000 BCE or further back, and we cannot find any Greek writings. You can't find any Hebrew writings anywhere that predates 1000 BCE that's talking about, Noah and talking about Moses and talking about what's in the Torah. You can't find anything that predates Homer's Odyssey or the Iliad. You can't find anything. So they got these things from Greek mythology, plain and simple. Now, you have to realize Greek mythology, the Old Testament, Judaism. Judaism is Greek mythology. Greek mythology is basically hiding and trying to cover up the fact that these people worship Saturn. They worship Kronos. So Judaism is the worship of Saturn. Christianity, the worship of Saturn. Islam, the worship of Saturn. Plain and simple. And what does Saturn correspond with? Satan. So you're talking about all three of these major modern religion is in essence worshiping Satan, worshiping Saturn, and a lot of people don't realize it. Now, Revelations 3:9 says, "Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee." Doesn't get any more clear than that. Synagogue of Satan, because they are worshiping Satan. It says they are liars. They are not Jews. They lie. So now let's go to Revelations 3:12. It says, "Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God." Think about it. The name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. It says, the city of my new God, which is New Jerusalem. So now, when you look at all the pictures of this New Jerusalem, it's a cube. It comes down in the shape of a cube. Why? Because it's talking about Saturn. Plain and simple. When do Jews go to the synagogue? They go on Saturday. Saturn Day. Come on, people. It's obvious. We have to do the research. It's talking about Saturn. All of this stuff corresponds back to Saturn, and Saturn is Satan. You have to realize what's going on. It's a lot more to Saturn than people realize. So now, as I said, it's all about Greek mythology, and Greek mythology representing Saturn. And when you start doing the research between Saturn and Greek mythology, you will find a lot of things are the same. So when we look at Saturn, when we look at the moons of Saturn, which Saturn has about 62 moons that we know of. Now, some of the names of these moons are the same as Greek mythological figures. So when we look at Titan, we know about the Titans in Greek mythology. They also have a moon named Prometheus, a moon named Janus. We have a moon called Calypso. We have a moon called Pandora. All of this stuff goes back to Greek mythology. Now, as a matter of fact, speaking of moons, we know that NASA, they launched a rocket called the Saturn V rocket or the Saturn V rocket up to our moon. They did this 13 times between 1966 and 1973. So we had the Saturn V or Saturn V rocket going to the moon. So now another weird thing is when you look at one of Saturn's moons called Iapetus. Iapetus is believed by NASA and other scientists to be an artificial moon. They basically believe that it was constructed, that somebody built it. Now that's crazy. Also, a lot of scientists and researchers believe that our moon is not a natural satellite, that it is a construct, that somebody built it. Now, the whole thing is, when you look at Iapetus and when you look at the Death Star from Star Wars, they look exactly alike. It's weird. The whole thing is, Star Wars didn't come out until 1977. And they didn't go to Saturn until 1979 when Pioneer 11 took those first photos of Saturn. So how did George Lucas, how did those designers know exactly what Iapetus looked like? And how did they design the Death Star to look exactly like it? Remember in the Star Wars movie, when they come out of hyperspace, when they come out of the warp drive or whatever, they say, hey, what is that moon there? And they say, it's not a moon. You know, it's a spaceship. So, you know, how did he know? When you look at the whole symbolism, when you look at Star Wars, we can see that most of the things in it corresponds to Freemasonry and corresponds to Saturn. So now when you look up the definition of moon, you will find Earth's natural satellite. You know, what is a natural satellite? You know, a satellite is an object, an artificial object that has been intentionally placed in space. So a natural satellite would basically be a natural artificial satellite that has been intentionally placed in space. It don't matter that they put the word natural there. It still doesn't take away from what a satellite is. It is an artificial object. But what do satellites do? They send and receive signals. They bounce signals. So to call our moon a satellite means what? It must be receiving some kind of signal or sending some kind of signal. But from where? Saturn. And you have to understand that it's one of the biggest things I'm going to be showing you in this video. It sounds crazy, I understand, but that's going to make a lot of sense. But what is the signal that it's sending? What are we receiving here on earth? We are receiving time. Remember, Chronos is the god of time. Father Time is Chronos. How are they controlling this world? With time. Without time, you do not die. Time is the reason why everything dies. Plain and simple, it's no escaping time. Now remember, there is laws to reality. Reality has laws. There is no law that governs time. It is the only thing that escapes the law of reality. You have duality in everything else except time. And there's a reason for that, because time is artificial. You have to understand that. You have good, evil, darkness, light. Time and what? You can't reverse time. You can't retract time. You can't reverse the aging process. Time escapes the laws of reality, which means it is artificial, and you have to understand that. You have to really get that in your head. It's time. I know it sounds crazy, but it's going to make a lot of sense as we go along. So now, what exactly is coming from Saturn? Let's take a look.
Astronomers have found one ring to rule them all, not in the land of Mordor, but around Saturn, our solar system's Lord of the Rings. In a patch of sky pretty far out from Saturn itself, Spitzer detected this telltale band of infrared light. While the image covers only a small area, it reveals a segment of something much bigger, the largest ring ever seen around Saturn or any other planet. How could such a large ring remain a secret for so long? While it is huge, the ring is insubstantial. Its diffuse particles are dark and reflect very little visible light. You could compare it to Tolkien's story of the Lord of the Rings. The Elvish script identifying the One Ring of Sauron only becomes visible when it's heated in fire. This largest ring of Saturn was only discovered from the glow of its heat in the infrared.
So now understand, our moon is picking up what Saturn is putting out, and it is basically broadcasting it to Earth. It is creating time. Time changes our reality. It changes our perception of reality. Now listen, this is the seal of Saturn. Now what is a seal? A seal is designed to keep things in, to keep things trapped. Now, you've seen this seal before. It looks like your Bluetooth logo. Now, with Bluetooth, I can send you something, a message wirelessly. I can send you a file wirelessly to your phone or to your computer or tablet. So you see this seal everywhere. You see this seal of Saturn all over the place. When you look at communications towers, look at them. What are communication towers designed to do? Broadcast things, to send signals, to bounce signals. So when you look at these towers, we can see the seal of Saturn in a lot of things. You can find it in gates. You can find it all over the place. This is what it's talking about. It's the seal. It is time. Time controls everything. Remember, back in the garden, what did God want to do? He wanted control. If you want to control people, time is the way to do it. Now, if you've seen the movie They Live with Roddy Piper, I talked about this in a previous video. Now, in that movie, it's basically about these aliens or these beings controlling Earth. Now, they put subliminal messages everywhere, messages telling people to obey. That's where we get the whole t-shirts and the hats that people wear now saying obey, comes from that movie. Now, in that movie, unless you have these glasses, you can't see what they look like, you can't see who they are, you can't see what they are doing. So Roddy Piper gets a hold of these glasses and he finds out what's going on. Now remember, at the end of that movie, he goes and he destroys the satellite. Now when he destroys the satellite, what happens? Everybody can see, reality as it is. They can see what's going on. They can see the people and what they look like. So now that whole thing is basically a parable. It's a metaphor for what happened if you destroy the moon. Now, when you go back and you look at how many movies, it's so many movies where the moon gets destroyed, where the moon gets, messed up. Now, when you go look at the movie called The Time Machine, in the movie The Time Machine, the moon gets destroyed. Now, there's two weird things in that movie that they show. One, they show the moon, and they show the dark side of the moon, the back of the moon. And on the back of the moon, It's a whole city. It is a city there, structures there. Now, that's something that had nothing to do with the movie, but they showed that part. But then they also showed the moon is destroyed. There's a lot of movies where the moon is destroyed. In Oblivion, the movie with Tom Cruise, the moon is destroyed. And then the Professor 2, the moon gets destroyed. And Titan AE, the moon is destroyed. I mean, there's so many movies we can go to and we can look and we can see where the moon is destroyed or the moon is, messed up or something happens to the moon. So now there's a lot more to this whole time thing. Time and the moon and time as relation to the moon and Saturn. It's a lot more to it. Now, I have a series I'm going to do on quantum physics. I have to do that first because a lot of people is not going to be able to understand what's going on when I start getting to this whole thing about time and the moon and everything like that until I do the series on quantum physics, which is why this video is part 1. I'm going to do a part 2 of this video, but first I have to do the series on quantum physics. Now, I went out and I bought a brand new, I went online actually, and I bought an expensive ass camera. I bought some green screen and lighting and a bunch of professional stuff. So when I do the series on quantum physics, and when I do the part 2 to this video, it's going to be way more professional. Everything's going to look cool. It's going to look a lot better. I am a graduate of film school, so my videos should look a lot better than what they do. And I know the sound quality has been awful. I went out and I bought a bunch of stuff. Well, I didn't go out. As I said, I went online and I bought a bunch of stuff, to make the videos look a lot better and to have better quality and to give you better videos. So, I did that, spent some money. And the next videos, I think I got one more video after this I'm going to do. But after that, when I go back to America, I got professional camera, green screen. I got a lot more stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot better videos when I go back home, when I get back to America. So then I'll release eventually the whole series on quantum physics and quantum mechanics. I'll release that. Then I'll eventually come out with part 2 of this video. But we're not done yet here. We have a lot more to go here that you need to understand. So let's get back into it. So now when we start looking at these beings who are supposedly in control of Saturn, they have been known by many different names. The Demiurge or the Archons or demons or Satan. They have been worshipped for thousands of years. You have the Saturnians. You have the Saturnian brotherhood, which is the real religion, the real belief system of the inner core of the Nazis and Hitler. It's what they really believed in. So now when you go to ancient Rome and you start studying ancient Rome, the capital was Saturnia. Saturnia is still there today. It still exists. Saturnia is actually a pretty beautiful place when you go and look at it. But Saturnia, it all validates everything. When you start going back and you start doing the research and looking at history, you can see there was a worship of Saturn. It's all over the place. They don't teach us none of this stuff in school. They don't tell us anything about the Saturnian brotherhood or the Saturnians or Saturnia or anything like this. We get Greek mythology to disguise it all. So you have to dig and dig and dig and do research. As I said, when I first started doing this, there was no YouTube. There was really I wasn't even into the internet like that. But you can find books. The older the book, the better the book, which is why I'm a big guy when it comes to books and, giving people books and getting people to read certain things, because it's important for you to read, because this stuff is not everywhere. I mean, it's not that many of us doing videos on YouTube that's putting out this kind of content. You gotta go find it in books. Books are important, which is why I'm all about, donating books and encouraging people to get books. So the whole thing is, whoever is running Saturn, whoever is controlling this whole time thing, they may not be as powerful as we think they are, or they need us. So now, what could they possibly need us for? This whole thing is about energy. It's about our energy. Now understand, it's a lot of theories out there. It's a lot of things people talk about. People talk about, reptilians and Nibiru and, the Pleiadians and all kinds of different things. Me, I like to stick to what I can prove. I like to stick to what the research is pointing to and what things are pointing to. Now, not all the time when I read something ancient, I don't automatically believe it. Now, another thing I want to talk about is that whole Sumerian tablet thing, this whole thing about, humans being created to mine gold. I mean, it's one of the stupidest things I heard of. I know they got some kind of facts to kind of back up their story, but when you start doing the research and looking at the whole thing, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense with history. And then the whole thing is the people who is pushing this whole story about the Sumerian tablets, you know, and Enki and the Nil and that whole thing. I mean, the people who push that story, when you really look at their background, they write books. They write books. They make up stories, they go out, and then they sell these books, and they do book tours, and they do like tours in Africa, and they charge people a whole bunch of money to come out and look at these so-called places that they talk about in a book. And when you go look at these places, it don't fit with what they're talking about. I mean, there's no proof. It's just people talking and making up a story. It's basically what the Bible is. It's a story. It's the same thing with this whole thing. It's a story. None of this stuff fits. You have to understand. I mean, first of all, quantum physics destroys all of that crap because you don't create something this complex. Human beings, we are very complex. We are very powerful beings. You don't create something like us to mine gold. I mean, it's just stupid. If you can create us, you don't need us to mine gold at all. It's not going to be a problem for you to mine gold. So why create something this advanced, this powerful to mine gold when you can train some monkeys to go mine some gold for you? I mean, it's just crazy. I know a lot of people had questions about that, but I wanted to address it. Now, a lot of people do like it because, I mean, the whole thing says this. Black people, our whole purpose is to be slaves. And that's why I don't dig that story and why I did a lot of research into it, because our whole purpose is saying our purpose is to be slaves. We was created to be slaves, and the white race is just basically a casualty of that. We was created first, everybody knows, black people, and then white people just came from us, and it just was like, you know, a mistake or something like that. I mean, it's all stupid. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Don't buy into that stuff. I only deal with what I can prove, what the research is telling me. I'm not going to come on here and give you a bunch of, whatever and what have you. Trust me, if I'm speaking about it, I found research to support what I'm talking about, and I usually give you that research in the videos. So don't buy into all that crap that people's talking. So now, what kind of energy do they want? They don't want good energy. They don't want bad energy. They want a combination of both. So now, when we go and we look at Satan, when we look at Saturn, what is Satan all about? What does Satan do? Satan perverts things. Satan perverts the nature of duality to get one form of energy, one perverted form of energy. So now let's go back to the Garden of Eden. You have Adam, you have Eve, you have man and woman. Why is it that the woman corrupts the man? What happens when feminine energy corrupts masculine energy? What happens? You get homosexuality. And that's just why homosexuality is promoted. This is why they say that, the Antichrist will be homosexual. He will be gay. This is why it's promoted. It's the perversion of the nature of the man and the woman. When you have a homosexual man, you have the perversion of the nature of man. When you have a lesbian woman, you have the perversion of the woman. But you still have male and female. You still have male and female energy in the man and in the woman. It's the dual energy. It's duality. It's going to create one form of energy. Now, let me say, and as you should understand, I don't have any problems with any gay or LBGT people or anything like that. You are who you are. I have no problems with anybody. Now, that being said, when we look at Baphomet, when we look at the goat of Mendes, when you see him, you can see he has female breasts. He has like a male body. When you look down, you can see the double helix of DNA symbolizing the uniting of male and female energy, represented by the goat, which we know Capricorn governs Saturn. It is ruling Saturn, the constellation Capricorn, which is the goat. So basically, this symbol is basically talking about what I just said. Male and female energy combining, being ruled by Saturn, and it's pointing to Saturn when you look at the image. It's all about Saturn worship. It's all about the male and female, the masculine and feminine energy, yin and yang. Yin, you have feminine negative energy. Yang, you have masculine positive energy. A lot of people will say, well, why is the female negative? Now, when you go back to the Adam and Eve story, remember I have shown you the whole Adam and Eve thing is speaking about atoms. It's not Adam, a man, it's atoms that it's talking about. So when you look at an atom, you know, we have electrons, neutrons, protons. So the electrons are feminine. They are negative energy. The protons is positive energy. The protons symbolize male, the electrons symbolize female, as well as the neutrons. So, you know, you have the nucleus in the middle, which is a combination. This is what it's talking about. It's all about the atom. It's always about this energy. Now, when you go to the Jewish Bible, we're talking about the Torah, and you look at the Adam and Eve story there, Eve is not in there. It's talking about Lilith. Now, remember, in that story, Lilith is basically the companion or the first wife or whatever of Adam. The whole thing is Adam, he tries to get her to be obedient to him, and she's like, hell no, she ain't having it. So she leaves, and when she leaves, she becomes a demon. She ends up becoming evil or negative. It's just the story that they're trying to talk about involving the Adam. Now, the whole thing is when Lilith leaves, she hooks up with Samuel. And when she hooks up with Samuel, you know, stuff happened. Now, when you go and you look at the story, it's talking about basically Baphomet. It's talking about the Adam. And when you look at the symbol here with Baphomet, you can see it spells out Lilith and Samuel. This is where it all goes back to. No matter where you look, you're going to find Saturn, you're going to find Satanism, you're going to find the worship of Saturn and Kronos, and everything that we've been talking about so far in this video with the goat and the constellations and the sun and the moon. It's everywhere. It's inescapable. So now understand, all is not lost. We are not hopeless. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video, so people can stop being so scared of this whole Satan thing. You need to understand your own power, and that these beings or whoever they are and these people are terrified of us. May not seem like it to you, but trust me, they are. When you look at their actions, you can see that they are scared because we are waking up, and they're going to have to change their tunes. Inescapable that they are going to have to change it. Trust me, they're going to have to. So now, understand, when we go and we look at the whole Lilith and Samuel story, it's about the perversion of duality there as well, the goat and everything. Now, where else do we find this goat? We can look at mythology and look at Pan. Remember, Pan is basically the god of nature. Why of nature? Because they want to pervert nature. Pan is like a man with like goat legs and goat feet, and he has horns of a goat. And, you know, it's a perversion of nature. Now, also, Pan is the name of one of the moons of Saturn. So, like I said, you're going to find it everywhere. You're going to find Saturn. You're going to find it throughout mythology and all over the place. It's about the perversion. I mean, that's what they do. Our government is exactly the same way. Our government perverts everything. You know, hospitals, you know, medicines, doctor. They're supposed to basically cure things. Doctors supposed to cure things. Medicine's supposed to cure things. Hospitals supposed to cure people, but they do not. Our politicians are supposed to take care of the people. They do not. Our teachers are supposed to teach us, you know, real history, real science, you know, real things, but they do not. It's about the perversion of everything. Everything is perverted. TV tells lies to your vision. It's supposed to tell you something that you can use. It don't. It's supposed to give you the news. The news tell you lies. Everything is a perversion. Everything is twisted. So understand, we are not supposed to be slaves to this material world. We are not supposed to be slaves to materials. We are supposed to use materials to help us develop our spiritual self. Now, we have to develop our spiritual self away from material to escape this planned net that they have us trapped into. This planet or planned net. So now everything is about keeping us away from the tree of life. That's what it's all about. Keeping us away from that tree, keeping us away from the truth. So now when we look at our world, when we look at our, you know, civilization, our system in America and all over the world, so many things that they give us because they are in panic mode. They give us so much to keep us from that tree. I mean, look at the entertainment industry. Look how much money they pay these people. They pay movie stars millions and millions of dollars to deceive you, to give you movies, to distort your perception. They pay these athletes. I mean, we talk about athletes getting paid $20 and $30 million a year to play sports, to deceive you, to keep you entertained, to keep you away from that tree. Musicians, rappers, and, you know, pop stars, they're getting all of this money, all of this attention and fame, everything to keep you distracted and away from this tree of life. So this is why we call these famous people and these celebrities stars. It goes back to the hexagram of Saturn and the star. Now we look at these celebrities, we look at these actors and these rappers and famous people, and we see what they're doing. We see them wearing the goat. We see them talking about, satanic things and having satanic messages in their lyrics and flashing things that have to do with these secret societies, and they talking about all kinds of rituals and all kinds of crazy things that all corresponds to this whole worship of Satan and satanic worship, but we just let it all slide. We see all these things. Nobody says nothing. It's all about keeping you away from that tree. We are distracted. And that's why they give you Hollywood. Hollywood and everything, the whole entertainment industry is their major weapon, because it's a distraction away from what the military is doing and what they are doing and what's really going on. It's a distraction. Now, you can understand that they use the entertainment industry as their primary weapon because they pay them the most. I mean, the sports athletes as well, they pay them a lot of money. You look at a soldier who goes to war, who risks his life. We're talking about risk his entire everything, his existence. And some of them actually die. A lot of them die and risk everything for what? They don't even get $100,000 a year. They don't get, and you got basketball players making $200,000 a week. I mean, it's crazy. So everything relies on that whole entertainment industry and what you're watching on TV. That is the major thing. That is their major weapon against us. The music and the movies. So they give us the entertainment industry, they give us religion, and we look to religion to basically what? To save us. Jesus is our savior. We look to religion to save us, to take us to the right place when we die. But as you have seen, and I know you do research yourselves as well, you can see that all religion leads back to what? The worship of Saturn. Is basically all the worship of Satan and Saturn, all within these religions, the major religions. So now I've shown you that God is capable of evil. We can see God is capable of evil in the Bible, and he tells you to do evil things. When you look at what's going on, it's evil. So you have duality there. You have good, you have evil. But what about Jesus? Now we start talking about Jesus. I mean, it's easy to see. So let's go to Revelations 13:18. It says, "Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, or 666. So it's 666. So the whole thing is this. We read this and we see the number there, and it's asking us to calculate, but it's giving us the answer. So what are we supposed to calculate? The number of his name. What is the name? Whose name are we supposed to calculate? They never give us that. So now, as I have said, you can find Satan in many different places. Satan can be many different things. Now, most people would not have fathomed to calculate the name of Jesus Christ. And if you did, when you calculate it, it don't equal 666. But Satan doesn't calculate to 666. Lucifer doesn't calculate to 666. Satan, Lucifer doesn't calculate to 666. Saturn doesn't calculate to 666. We're talking about the number of the name. We're talking about calculating letters into numbers. None of it equals 666. I have shown you the Pope already and how that can equal 666. Yes. But it says, here is wisdom. Let he who has understanding. What is it talking about? So now when you go here and it says, and his number is 666, but it gives you the number. So what are we supposed to calculate? You're supposed to calculate, and his number is. When you calculate that, you get 3170, 430, 1171, and 666. And when you add those together, you get 2,368. Now, when you calculate Jesus Christ, the Greek name, Jesus Christ. Remember, the New Testament is written in Greek. When you calculate the number of his name, it equals 2,368. Boom. Jesus Christ is Satan. It's the worship of Saturn. I can go into more with Jesus Christ. And when you start looking at the pictures, when you start looking at the paintings, it's corruptible man. That's what they're talking about. It's talking about Jesus Christ. It's talking about him. When you look at the pictures, you can see the resemblance of the paintings of Jesus and Baphomet. It's a lot of hidden things in a lot of these pictures they're trying to show you, which is why they give you one painting of Jesus when he looks like this. They show you another one of Mary looking the same exact way. It's duality. It's a lot of hidden symbolisms in a lot of these paintings, and you have to really look at them to see what's going on. So now we can see why these celebrities can praise Jesus. We can see them, throw up the goat symbol and flash all these devil symbols and symbolisms and talk about all this satanic stuff in their lyrics and, show all this satanic stuff in movies and everything like that. We can see why they can do all of that, then come on stage and say, well, I like to thank Jesus. I like to thank God first. Thank you, Jesus. And start talking about Jesus. Now we see why. It's the same shit. Jesus, Satan, God, Satan, same thing. There is no such thing as Satan. You have to understand it's all about Saturn. There's no such thing as this being Satan that the Bible is talking about. Snap out of it. In fact, if you go and ask a devil worshiper, a person who is a Satanist, they will tell you there's no such thing as no damn Satan. They'll look at you like you're crazy. In fact, let's go to a satanic website, right? Let's go to one. Let's check this out. Now, when you start reading here, it's talking about how you can sell your soul to Satan. And it goes on to say stuff like, you got to have goat's blood and you got to draw a pentagram with it and stay inside the pentagram. But then it says here, etc., blah, 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 bullshit. The previous 3 paragraphs are what I call my dark sense of humor. This is the answer that Christian devil worshippers, see, it's trying to tell you, Christian devil worshippers, it's no such thing, but it is. They don't know it. But if you're a Christian and you worshiping Jesus, you actually worshiping Satan, but you just don't understand that. So it says, this is the answer that Christian devil worshippers enjoy. It is B-movie media crap combined with medieval Christian paranoia about non-Christian practices. Doing the above is not only stupid, it is pathetic, unless you make money from it, in which case use ketchup and tell them it's congealed blood. Now it goes on to say down here, the person who asks, how do I sell my soul, is most likely new to Satanism and probably new to science, new to critical thinking, new to adulthood, and generally just newy. They are most likely asking this question to the first Satanist that they have encountered. Satanism does not, however, recognize Satan. That is big. Satanism does not, however, recognize Satan. It's because they worship Saturn. They know what's going on. They know the truth as an existing being. Satanism does not, however, recognize Satan as an existing being. Let that sink in. As a result, the answer of a typical Satanist to this question could be, piss off, you immature devil worshiper. Get a life and a job. Stop harassing us until you've grown some brain cells, etc. Now, he goes down here and he quotes whoever this is, Anton Lavey. Now, everybody know Anton Lavey is like the, biggest Satanist of the modern era. We know Aleister Crowley, we know Anton Lavey, and we know that Marilyn Manson took over that whole church of Satanism from Anton Lavey when he passed. But Anton Lavey is quoted as saying, to become a Satanist, it is unnecessary to sell your soul to the devil or make a pact with Satan. This threat was devised by Christianity to terrorize people so they would not stray from the fold. Now, it's telling you straight up, when you do the research, the whole thing is people stay away from this stuff. They get spooked out, they get scared. I know, I was there, I was scared out of my mind when I was studying Satanism because I had to study it, I had to go there. I had to study Crowley, I had to study Manly P. Hall, I had to study all these people, and I was scared out of my mind when I first started studying and reading these words and learning Latin and reading all this satanic stuff. I was freaked out, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's by design. It's to keep you away from it so, people like me can't give you this information. If I didn't take the time to learn it and fight through my fear, I wouldn't be able to give you this stuff now, and other people as well. But it's all designed by that. But guess who make us scared of these things? Christianity. The church. Now, instead of them telling you what I just said and giving us the truth, they give us this whole fairy tale about, burning in hell and, dying and suffering and stuff like that. But this is what they should be telling us. Take a look.
I don't think hell exists. I happen to believe in life after death, but I don't think it's got a thing to do with reward and punishment. Religion is always in the control business. And that's something people don't really understand. It's in the guilt-producing control business. And if you have heaven as a place where you're rewarded for your goodness and hell as a place where you're punished for your evil, then you sort of have control of the population. And so they create this fiery place, which has quite literally scared the hell out of a lot of people throughout Christian history. Mm-hmm. And it's part of a control tactic.
But wait a minute, you're saying that hell, the idea of a place under the earth or somewhere where you're tormented for an eternity, is actually an invention of the church?
I think the church fired its furnaces hotter than anybody else. But I think there's a sense in most religious life of reward and punishment in some form. The church doesn't like for people to grow up, because you can't control grown-ups. That's why we talk about being born again. When you're born again, you're still a child. The people don't need to be born again. They need to grow up. They need to accept their responsibility for themselves and the world.
What do you make of the theology, which is quite prominent these days in America, which is that there is one guaranteed way not to go to hell, and that is to accept Jesus as your personal Savior?
Yeah, I grew up in that tradition. Every church I know claims that we are the true church, and they have some ultimate authority. We have the infallible Pope, we have the inerrant Bible. The idea that the truth of God can be bound in any human system, by any human creed, by any human book, is almost beyond imagination for me. I mean, God is not a Christian. God is not a Jew or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Buddhist. All of those are human systems which human beings have created to try to help us walk into the mystery of God. I honor my tradition. I walk through my tradition. But I don't believe my tradition defines God. I think it only points me to God.
Now, people look at that video and they'll say, well, he has demons in him. And, celebrities have demons, and they have demons that make them do this, and demons control them, and demons. People always talk about demons. But demons are a manifestation of your own evil into reality. Plain and simple. Satan and demons are your scapegoats. It's what you use to justify your own evil. And everybody want to run and point the finger at demons and Satan instead of taking responsibility for their own evil and their own actions. There is no demons. Everybody has what we call demons. What is demons really? I mean, come on. It's just your own evil. It's something that you can't let go of that is bad for you. When you have a drinking problem, we call them demons. When you have a problem, a drug problem, or, any kind of problem, it is you holding on to something that is evil that you should not hold on to, and we just call them demons. Now, I had a person tell me that they was possessed by 4 demons, right? 4 demons. And they said that, well, they was possessed by these demons, and these demons was making them do bad things. And, they sat down one time and they watched a YouTube video, and there was this guy on YouTube teaching people how to cast out demons. So he said he sat down, he watched this video, and he learned how to cast the demons out of himself. And he completed the process, and he was able to cast the demons out. So I said, so wait a minute. You mean to tell me that you had demons in you that was controlling you, making you do bad things, right? So these demons allowed you to sit down and watch a video that was going to teach you how to cast them out, and they let it happen? It don't make sense. This is the kind of, psychopathic religion or religiosity or whatever you want to call it that makes people look crazy and insane. I can't believe when people come to the comment section on YouTube or when people tell me certain things, the stuff that comes out of their mouths. And it's like I'm looking at people because I'm a realist. I'm a real person. I'm just like, stop playing. When people be talking about, I spoke to God and I felt the Holy Spirit, and I'll be like looking at them like, stop playing, man. Like, come on, I'm a grown-ass man. You know what I mean? Stop that. Don't sit here and tell me about this Holy Spirit and all this and that. Come on, be real with yourself. Snap out of it. You know you lying. It's just the weirdest thing. It's a uncomfortable conversation when somebody is talking like that, and then you sitting there knowing that they lying, and they know they lying. But it's like, damn, if you really believe in that, one, you know you're lying. But if you really believed in this God and you're going to sit here and you're going to lie to me, what do you think, if God was real, he would do to you lying about all this stuff? Like, it's just crazy. That's why I call religion as a sickness. They make people do and say sick things and crazy things. So now when you hear about all these celebrities and these Satanists and these people who do all these rituals, all these sacrifices and all these little weird rituals that they do that's supposed to be in praise to Satan or, satanic worship or whatever like that. When you hear about these celebrities and all these people doing these things, what they are doing is they are stealing your energy. Plain and simple. So when you talk about these Satanists and these celebrities being possessed by demons, it's energy. But guess what? They get the energy from you. They get it from us. They get it from the people. That's where the energy is coming from. So if it's evil energy, well, guess what? They're stealing your evil energy. But it's not evil energy. It is a mixture, as I was talking about before. That's what it's all about. When you go to these concerts, these huge concerts full of people, I don't know where a lot of you are at as far as like meditation and stuff like that. So I don't know if you can feel energy yet and, feel the energy in the room, or maybe you're not aware of it. But if you go somewhere like a concert, you can feel it. The energy is everywhere. You can feel this energy. You can feel it when you go to the club and the speaker is vibrating your insides. It's just like, it's energy throughout everywhere. You can feel it. Now, they know how to harness that energy and pull it in. I know you might say this is crazy, how? But remember, Bluetooth. Look at your Bluetooth. You don't see no string when you send a signal. You get internet wirelessly. You don't see nothing in the air going from, the router to your phone. It's the same thing. It's about energy. This is what they're doing. It has nothing to do with some individual demons coming from wherever, hell, or wherever you think they're coming from. It has nothing to do about some demons taking over your body. It's your own evil. You are manifesting it. You are scaring your own self. Now, as I was talking about in my previous video, we do the same thing, every day. We absorb energy. If you're in a room with a bunch of angry people and they pissed off, it could be a bunch of people just standing in line, mad about being in line or something like that. But if you go in a room and you stay there long enough with a bunch of angry people, you're going to get angry as well. You're going to feel their energy. You're going to absorb it. You have to be really conscious of your own energy for you to not, absorb this negative energy and just, manifest it onto yourself and then make yourself angry. But, it's contagious, just like laughter. Same thing, it's energy. You go into a room with a bunch of happy people jumping around, dancing and having a good time and this and that, it's going to rub off. If they laughing, you're going to start laughing, you're going to start having fun. The atmosphere is happy. We have all been there. So happy, 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 happy. Now, except if you go to Chuck E. Cheese or something like that. You go to Chuck E. Cheese, the kids is happy. The adults is like, man, I can't wait to get the hell out of here. It's a bunch of screaming kids running around driving you crazy. But if you can put up with it, it's still a happy mood for the kids. You're happy that your kid's happy and the kids is happy, but it drives you crazy. But now, it's not about, negative energy or, positive energy, good energy or bad energy. As I said, it's about the balance. It's about the balance of two. It's about the two becoming one. You can't defeat them. You can't escape here until the two becomes one. It's about balancing. Subconscious, conscious. Put them together, balance. It's about balance and becoming one. Now, if you look at the whole Matrix thing with Neo was the one. If you remember in the second Matrix, the Matrix Reloaded, if you remember in that movie, remember when Neo went to the playground, when he met with the Oracle. Now, when he meets with the Oracle and they sit down, she says, I want what you want. But the only way we can get there is together. Now, the whole thing is talking about, it's a parable about, you have a female and you have a male. You have feminine energy, masculine energy coming together. And how do they beat Smith in the end? She allows herself to be absorbed by Smith. And then he later, at the end, allows himself to be absorbed by Smith. And when they come together inside Smith, they defeat Smith. That's how they beat the agent. But now, there's more to that part. Now, when the Oracle leaves, Agent Smith, he comes out. Now, he walks up to Neo, and he's basically telling Neo, hey, before you killed me, I was cool. Everything was fine. I had a purpose. I knew what I was supposed to do. But when you killed me, I knew the rules. I knew the laws. I knew the nature of reality that I was supposed to go back. So now Smith says, he's like, I don't know if it's something that's overwritten or something copied, because when Neo jumped into him, he was like something rubbed off on him, something that, compelled him to disobey. So what did Neo give him? Neo gave him choice. He gave him a choice to stay and remain a slave or a agent to the system, or to become like the system, or even more powerful than the system. It's exactly like what we've been talking about with the Adam and Eve story. Lucifer came and gave him choice, gave Adam and Eve choice. He gave Agent Smith choice. So Smith goes on to say, because you gave me choice, I left the matrix. Because of you, I'm no longer an agent. Because of you, I'm unplugged. Because of you, I am seemingly or apparently free. But then he stops and he says, appearances can be deceiving, which brings us to the reason why we are here. We aren't here because we're free. We're here because we are not free. There's no denying reason or escaping purpose. So now, what was the purpose of Neo? What was Neo's purpose? His purpose was to do what? His purpose was to defeat the system, and to defeat the system and free his people from a world where they were being lied to, a world where they were being told lies. And while they were being told lies, in reality, what was going on was what? Their energy was being stolen. Plain and simple. It's the same thing we've been talking about. It's the same thing. When you start doing the research and when you see your research line up with movies, that's when it's like almost validation right there. It's like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what they was talking about in so many movies and books. And it's why they talk about these things. I know a lot of people say, well, why do they make movies trying to tell us what's going on and this and that? Do they not want us to know? I thought they don't want us to know. The whole thing is this. This stuff is not easy to come up with. This information is just not. People don't figure this stuff out. They don't expect you to know this stuff. This movie is not for you to watch and to know what I just said. It's for you to watch and just, get lost in the whole fantasy of Neo and Morpheus and Trinity and everything like that, and just have a good time and watch the movie. The whole thing that's behind the movie, the stuff that we talk about, is not for us. It's for them. It's just for them to understand what's going on. It's why they put these movies out. It's not for us. We're supposed to get deceived. It would be better for them if they wanted to tell us the truth, to just tell us the truth, instead of, giving it to us in parables and stuff like that. But because there's so much information that came out and that's out now, people who are in the know, who have their eyes open, we can look at these movies now and we can, break them apart. But now, what was the whole purpose of the system? The purpose of the system was to what? To deceive us, to keep us deceived while they steal our energy. You had a whole matrix world that was just like our world. It was normal, but in reality, they was doing what? Stealing the energy of the people. It's the same thing. So now, we're not finished yet with this scene. Let's go back. Now remember, after the Oracle says to Neo, the only way we can get there is together, she says to him, but first you will need the key maker. Remember, the whole second part was about them trying to get the key maker. The key maker, they went to the Merovingian, and the Merovingian said, no, you can't have them, and they end up stealing them. But she says, you will first need the key maker. Who is the key maker? Here's the key maker. That is the symbol. That's the Vatican coat of arms. It is keys. 2 keys. Now, if you do an aerial shot of the Vatican courtyard, you will see the keyhole, because the Vatican is holding all the keys. They're guarding all the doors, everything. They have all the secrets. You have to understand what they are talking about and what's going on before you can get out of here, plain and simple. Now, understand, we know it's the Vatican. We know it's Catholicism. But if you don't get it yet, if you do not realize that they control all 3 major religions, you are not doing enough research. Christianity, Judaism, Islam is all Roman. Rome helped create them. They created them all. They all correspond with each other, which is why, as I said, all 3 books are in the Masonic Lodge. You have to understand all 3 to understand what's going on. It's just that simple. The key is the Vatican. If you understand them and what they're doing and the rituals, if you go and you look at the history, you can figure this stuff out and you can put it all together. They are the key. Plain and simple. They are the key. So now let me try to bring all this, together for you can understand. First, understand this. Whoever these beings are that's basically running things, They cannot affect this physical material world. Their only weapon is time. They prey on the evil that exists within man. They use that evil in order to control us, in order to siphon energy from us. In order for them to affect us on this physical level, they themselves have to become physical beings, which is why a lot of people believe that, this whole reptilian thing, or they believe in this whole thing about these beings being among us in human form. The whole thing is this: if they are humans, if they are here in this material world as material, they can be affected, they can be killed and stopped. Plain and simple, and they understand that, which is why they are terrified of us all waking up. So now, a lot of people always say, well, I can't feel no changes. I can't feel nothing, happening to me. I feel fine all the time. No, you do not. You don't realize what's going on, and I'm about to explain it to you. The whole thing is this: you don't feel 100% energized 24 hours a day. What happens when the sun is out? You wake up, you're happy, you have energy, you are fine. What happens when the sun goes down? The moon comes out. What happens when the moon comes out? You get tired, you get sleepy, you fall asleep. What just happened? You had a whole day of your energy being drained and you never knew about it. You think it's normal that you get tired at night and you go to sleep. You think that's a normal thing because you was born in it. It's not normal. We are infinite energy. What happens when you go to sleep? You don't plug yourself into the wall like you do your phone. You recharge on your own. Your own energy recharges your body. So if that's infinite energy, then how are we getting tired? The only way we can recharge is where time doesn't affect us, within the dream state. And that's our subconscious recharging our body. They can't affect us there. They can only affect us on the outside, which is the material. So because of their weapon of time, our material body doesn't last forever. We can't live forever because of time. So because of time, once they finish draining all of the energy our material body is capable of having, we die. And our spirit body, it leaves, but it can't go anywhere because of this planet. This planet is trapped, which is why it's important for you to awaken your chakras so you can have the power to escape here, so you can leave. So now when you die, you don't have a choice. You have to reincarnate because you have to try the process all over again. The problem is, once you go back to this material world, you have no memory of your past life. Some people do. But it's very, very rare when that happens. But it doesn't matter anyway. You're still stuck within their time. You're still trapped. You don't have any power. There's nothing you can do. The whole purpose is to get out of here. So now this is why I call myself Merkabah. The Merkabah is the spirit vehicle. It is the spirit vehicle used by the ascended masters to escape here, to get out of this place. Mer means light. Ka means spirit, Ba means body. It is the spiritual vehicle to help your spirit body escape this planet, to get out of here. It is the energy. It is the seventh chakra. It is everything. The culmination of you meditating and you doing energy work and you developing your energy so you can get out of this place. This is why I chose that name, because I'm trying to help you do that. I want you to get out of here. I want you to wake people up. I want you to share the information and just, this is what it's all about. We can still have fun, people. We can still go party and do stuff and have a good time. It don't have to be boring, but at the same time, you have to understand what you need to do on this personal level. You need to develop your energy and get out of here. You have no clue. You can't fathom a life other than this. Some people would just say, well, it is what it is. At least I ain't going to hell. I'm coming back here. We can party all over again. Now, whole thing is, we got to get the information out there. You have to read. You have to understand what's going on. Books are very important. You need to start digging in and try to find the oldest books you can find. If you go to thrift stores, I'm telling you, you can get books for like $1, $2, $3. Now, me and a couple people, we put together this book drive. What we do is we donate books, new and used books, to halfway houses, to group homes, and to prisons. Now, here's the website we go here, and you can actually go yourself and you can donate books to the prison system. Understand, Now, the prison system is one of the places where we lose people to religion. People go into prison, we know they come out Christian, they come out Muslim, they come out racist, they come out more evil than ever. So conscious books are needed. So what we do is we donate conscious books to these halfway houses, to the people in group homes who really need these conscious books, and they need to wake up and understand what's going on. So now you don't have to donate to us, but I do have a whole donate button here. I'll put a link in the description if you want to donate and help us out. But if not, you can go to the prison site. You can donate books yourself. You can go and you can buy books, conscious books, and put them in circulation. You know, go buy Dr. Ben's book, buy John Henry Clark's book, buy Brother Polite's book, Shaka Atmos, and these people you see online who putting out books, who trying to get the information out. Support these people. Support them, and, you know, put this information out there, get it in circulation so we can have this information, because it's important. Now, unfortunately, there's a few people in the religious community who do not like me. You know, Muslims and Christians and Israelites and Jews who don't like me putting out this information. They're going to look, and the first thing they're going to say is, oh my goodness, he's trying to be like Jesus. He's calling himself a savior. He's trying to save people. That's the first thing they're going to say. You know, he said he's the Merkabah. He's trying to help people and save people. He's a false god or a prophet. People crazy. They really have a spooky imagination. And every time you put out information, certain information, it gets critiqued, and somebody tries to take that information and compare it with Satanism. And every single thing that you do that goes against their religion, when they don't even realize that their religion is Satan, as I just shown you in this video. They don't even realize what's going on. So yeah, there's some haters out there, and I wanted to say that because I don't want people to think I'm trying to be like Jesus and save people. Like, come on, the people who watch my videos, you already know what it's hitting for. I'm not talking about you. But for anybody who's new, who don't know me, who don't watch the videos. But I don't want people thinking that that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create some kind of religion. I'm not trying to create no religion. This is information that is out there you could put together on your own. All I did was go out there, get the information, put it together, and make a video. You can do it yourself. If you did the research on your own, you will come to the same conclusion as me. It's just that simple. All I'm doing is trying to save you the trouble by putting it together and putting it out there myself. That's all. I see these things. I've been doing the research for over 14 years. This is what I've come up with, and I just feel compelled to put it out there. I have to put it out. It has to be known. It's just something that you can't keep this stuff inside, which is why I wrote like 6 books already. And I'm going to put out my first book next year, because it's just, you can't keep it in. It's not meant for us to do that. I don't know what it is about this information that we can't keep it in. We learn it and we want to put it out because we feel like this is what we are supposed to do. And I know it's the truth. It's what we are supposed to do. It's embedded in us to get the truth out. And I know the haters going to say, oh, he's asking for donations for books. You know, he want to give books to people who need books. People are going to hate, man. It's just crazy to think into people and how people think when you're trying to do something to help people. It always got to go back to something false or something that's negative or something bad. You know, everybody trying to scam everybody. It's not even about that. I have money. I'm a successful dude. I'm not super stinking rich or nothing like that, but I'm very successful. I've worked hard in my life to get to this level of success that I am at right now. I'm not a super big baller, but I'm good. I'm comfortable. I don't need to come on YouTube and beg for money or nothing like that. I'm trying to help people, and other people want to help people. They just don't know how. They want to help themselves. One of these days, you could be booked for something. You might end up in jail. You might need one of these books, and you can look and you'll see, damn, you know, one of Dr. Ben's book right here. Let me read this joint. We got to get these books out there. That's all I'm trying to do. So now what I'll do is I'll put my book list as well in the description of books that you should buy, you should read if you don't have them already. If you can't afford it, you know, download the PDF. Go online, try to find the PDF and download the book. But I'm going to put a book list in the description. If anybody wants to donate, I'm going to put a link in the description. I'm going to put a link in the description for the prison system where you can donate books. So you can, you know, you can just try to do what you can to get this information in circulation, but also, you know, educate yourselves as well. Learn as much as possible. Now, part 2 is going to be awesome. You know, it's a lot of little effects that I want to do and I want to use in that video. As I said, I went out and bought some cameras and green screen and stuff like that. So it's going to be better. It's going to make a better presentation for when I go into quantum physics and to the second part of this video, which is going to be way cooler. So, of course, I want to thank everybody for just taking the time to watch this video and watch the whole thing and share it. And whatever you do to spread the video, whatever like that, you know, I love you guys. You guys are the truth. Thanks for helping me out, sharing the videos and everything like that. Without y'all, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be spreading it if I didn't think people was actually, you know, accepting the information and taking it in. Y'all support me, I support y'all. I put out the videos. We do what we got to do to get the information out there to everybody else. And whenever you come to the comment section and show support and show love, it's much appreciated by me. And you know what I do, it helps me to, you know, sometimes I want to go do something else, but you know, I say, you know what, I want to get this video out, I want to get this message out. It keeps me motivated and keeps me doing what I'm doing, you know, because I know this information is in me. I have to get it out. You know, my book is going to be coming out next year sometime, and I have to get this information out because this is what I'm supposed to do. If they end up killing me or something like that, trust me, when I come back, I'll be doing the same exact thing. I really honestly believe that. But thanks for the support. You know, like, comment, share, and I see you guys next video.